Hey everybody, my name is Jared Malat. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Coltist. This is the Coltist, season 2, episode 15, 14, episode
14, yeah,
14,
the Outburst, yeah.
the Alec Pierce special. Um, this episode is being recorded a couple days after, well, a few days after, the Colts 2023 NFL season came to an end. The
Yeah, heartbreaking. Heartbreaking it will be.
Colts lost to the Houston Texans at home. Final score 23-19. And kind of one of those games where one play, you make one more play and you're in it and you could win it. It's totally doable. Um, Obviously, we were talking right before this, just to dive into that final game. Uh, Obviously they're, neck and neck. Colts are fighting back the whole way.
Yeah,
Um, And then obviously it all comes down to the last play of a fourth down, right? Where uh Tyler Goodson was in instead of Jonathan Taylor. And I've been on the record saying like when it's your whole season on the line, I'd prefer if that's the guy we just paid a bunch of money to, unless he was injured, right? So of course Jonathan Taylor, 30 carries, 188 yards, absolutely
yeah,
had
he did.
a
Yeah, he did.
phenomenal
What more? Yeah,
football.
what more can you ask
Can't ask him to
from
do
the
anything
guy? Like
else.
you,
Two
you
catches
paid
on
him.
two targets, so he didn't have any drops, none of
No,
that stuff. Very
you
effective.
paid him when the season started. You were paying him in mind. He finished the year with a touchdown on 6 consecutive games. I mean, and on the game where it mattered the most, like the one that
He had the
was,
best game,
yeah,
right?
the big game, he had his best game of the season. And yeah, I believe that, getting healthy, and I believe that both, Taylor and Alec Pierce, who is the name of the episode,
Yeah,
are the ones that are going to benefit the most from having a guy like Richardson back. Like if
yeah.
you think about it, we saw like what just I believe it was just two offensive drives with Taylor and with Richardson.
Hmm.
And I mean, as Colts fan, that sucks because that was the one that I really wanted to watch. But I mean, yeah, if all goes right, and of course, Anthony Richardson should be back and ready to go by next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm excited. Like I'm,
Yeah, one of the things I'd had to kind of come to terms with early in the season was that we aren't even supposed to be here.
yeah,
I'd been saying since, well, I've been saying it for a few years now. The way the math breaks down is that teams do not get better overnight. Okay. In fact, on average, the most an NFL team improves year to year is 4 wins. So,
yeah,
in from my perspective, they won 4.5 games last year, and they come back and win 9 the next year, right? They
yeah.
outperformed what I even thought was possible. Um, with a backup quarterback, um, they were missing some key players. Guys coming thinking like Braden Smith missed some time. Um, you had a
Brian
guy
Kelly missing time.
Grover
Robert
Stewart
Stewart,
got suspended. Um, so
extinct.
there's a lot going on there in terms
And you
of
could also, yeah, you could also say about the leader of the team and the defense, Shaq Leonard coming back and not being like I don't know if you had a chance to watch his film in the Eagles. He looks really really bad.
yeah.
Just
I mean, I
slow,
saw
not
that I
explosive.
saw that he was productive, but not game changing.
Yeah,
Um,
he had a good game against the
he had a
Giants,
good
but if you
game.
if you if you look him up right now, I what I like to do the most when assessing former Colts player, I go on Twitter and see what the fan base is saying about him. Shaq Leonard is not getting. I mean, he's not getting any love from the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Cowboys are trolling them hard,
Oh yeah.
and that's where I go. Okay, yeah, you lost that guy who was he was supposed to be like the leader of the defense when the season started.
Yeah.
You did not have him. You lost,
They were
your
still
young
introducing him
cornerback.
last. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. You lost Isaiah Rodgers. He was supposed to be your starting cornerback, number one corner, out suspended for gambling entire year. He's gone. Your other starting cornerback, Dallas Flowers, tears his Achilles. I think it was week 5, out for the year. I mean, it's just how much adversity can a team that was already thin, because it's not like the Colts had a ton of depth on those positions.
Right.
And somehow, they managed to survive, and they were playing like we were playing EJ Speed. We were playing Jalen Jones, who was a 7th-round draft pick. We were playing Ronnie Harrison at one point in the backfield. And in my opinion, just wrapping it up, it speaks really, really well of head coach Shane Steichen,
Hmm.
how he managed to, keep the team together, keep the crew together, pulling all to the same side. And
Yeah.
despite, all the shit they had to face this year, they still won 9 games
Yeah.
with a backup quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
that's commendable if you ask me.
Yeah. And it's just like you said, missing both corners, impact players not showing up and not being who you thought they were, guys missing games for personal decisions. But more importantly, my thought process was uh, when you have a first year head coach and a rookie starting quarterback, you're not supposed to win a bunch of games. Now, the only problem with saying that is the Colts get bounced out of the playoffs by a first year head coach with a rookie quarterback in D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud, right? Which is a division rival. And the thing about it is you kind of need it for motivation. And I hate to be that guy, but it's like the Jaguars are uninspiring to me. Like they're just not it. The Tennessee Titans just fired Mike Vrabel, the least of their problems, right? That is entirely GM should have gotten fired. Um, so the AFC South without the Colts and Texans holding it up is a shit show, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm the Colts, this is bulletin board material. They bounced us out of the playoffs. We're returning the fucking favor next year. This is happening, right? Uh, I I'm not saying that Houston's not going to play above board and win themselves a playoff game. Um, I didn't think they were there either, personnel wise, right? I even thought they were in when we played Houston. I'd said earlier in the year that I didn't think they had the personnel grouping to be very good, and that they're going to need another year to get it together. And hey, they did. Obviously, they're 10-7 going to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, when you get close to making it to the playoffs, then you start to develop some dreams and ambitions. I gotta admit though, like the whole time I'm like, the odds are so bad. Like we're not supposed to be winning these games, and we're
Yeah.
supposed to win 5, 6 games at the most.
At best. Yeah, at
If we
best.
see a little bit of development out of Anthony Richardson, we're happy about it, right? That was what we were saying before the season started. I just want to make sure he's the guy, right? Um, Obviously, I think that you found that out, and it's unfortunate that he got injured, had to have season-ending surgery, and all that. And that is another thing we didn't even bring up that this the future of your franchise sat on sideline
Yeah.
most of the year. Um, so like I said, it's almost like we weren't even supposed to be here, man. Kind of things like we weren't even supposed to be. We weren't supposed to be any good.
Yeah, we
Um,
were not supposed to be this good this fast.
but
Because, if you look at the team, it's mostly the same starters that went like, what was it, 4-12-1 last year?
yeah,
It's mostly the same guys. And
yeah,
you're winning with those guys. And, kudos, another special, shout out to Tony Sperano Jr.,
hmm,
the offensive line assistant coach. That
oh
was
yeah,
the same offensive line as last season. And you saw how they played. They were amazing. Will
yeah,
Fries, who was a 7th-round draft pick, he was amazing. Raymond continued, developing. Quentin Nelson, he was, I mean, back to his all-pro caliber form. Ryan Kelly, who was, you remember we were talking about back before the season started. We were saying, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Kelly is out. If he's cut, and fast forward 20 weeks, we are seeing, hey, Ryan Kelly was actually among the best centers in the entire NFL.
I just love hearing that, right? Because Chris Ballard said since he got here, you got to win through the trenches, right?
Yeah.
And the Colts among the league leaders in sacks. Uh, also protect. I would say not protected Gardner Minshew very well. Gardner Minshew is a liability with the
Yeah,
football. It's
he's not a
not
he's
very
not an easy
sound.
guy to protect.
Yeah. So all that being said, obviously the big news coming down today, after a few days of nothing, Colts owner Jim Irsay has been hospitalized with severe respiratory illness. Obviously, here at the Coltist, big Jim Irsay fans, so
Yeah, we
wish him
wish him
get well soon.
there
We
were
wish
some
him well.
comments. There were some comments, just terrible comments about, like, I read on Twitter now X,
Yeah,
and it's like, hey man, like, this is speaking, as a Colts fan, this is a decent human being.
yeah,
We all have our issues. Like, no one is perfect.
yeah,
He's a good human being. He does a lot of great things for the community. He clearly loves Indianapolis. I
yeah,
mean, it's evident. I can say it all the way from here, like in Argentina, the love
yeah.
he has for the city is palpable. So yeah, best wishes. Hopefully he gets better soon.
And then obviously, one of the joys of recording this podcast with you, Mateo, is that we kind of realized a long time ago that like we can't control what's going on with our Indianapolis Colts, and it can get pretty dreary. Indiana Pacers, a young upstart NBA team. I've never heard of a podcast that covered two sports in the same
Yeah,
city, and we started talking about the Indiana Pacers. And obviously the last we spoke, the Pacers had won 6 games in a row. Um, and they were actually going through a stretch where they were playing the Bucks twice and the Celtics twice in like a 5 game stretch. And a lot of people were saying like, this young Pacers team, they've got some depth, but they can't keep winning these big games. And brother, they've now won 6 of 7. And then I think it's just you just got to talk about dodging a bullet. Tyrese Halliburton goes down, basically does the splits in the game, uh,
yeah,
and you're thinking the worst, like he tore his hamstring. Comes out today, gets an MRI, just a grade 1 strain, and he'll be evaluated, in a couple weeks. So the good news is he's going to miss a little time, but it's not nearly like what it could have been. What a lot of people were thinking when it happened, like, oh, there goes their season. I think if I remember correctly, the Pacers were like 5-19 or something like that without him last year.
yeah,
Um, so obviously, this takes a little bit of wind out of the sails, but it was encouraging that the Pacers were able to
yeah.
beat the Celtics, the game that Halliburton goes down, and it was a close game. So it's not like they blew him out. It was never close, and Tyrese going down didn't matter. No, it was a 2 point regulation
Yeah, two
win.
point
It
game where
was a
I
game. The
mean,
whole game. The whole game. It was a game. And the
we got
Pacers
lucky.
pulled
We
together.
got lucky in the end. With the Colts. Like, I
Yeah,
saw them today, and that was, I think you can relate, being Indiana Pacers and Indianapolis Colts. Most of the times, those calls against the big teams, they go against us.
yeah,
I think that, 9 out of 10 times it's just saying, hey, we got screwed. So it feels nice, every once in a while getting the benefit of the doubt and, getting those calls.
yeah.
But yeah, I think the team will be all right. We are at a weird position because I'm still like, hey, we are still missing another super, and I mean, not a superstar, but another all-star caliber player would be just so nice and would, you know,
I think it's
get
been
the team.
Matherin.
Yeah, it's been Matherin so far, but I mean, he's kind of, I really like him, and I think he's gonna be a great player, but
Mhm.
he's just so inconsistent at times where I mean, and of course, he's still really young. He's 21 years old. He's in his second year. I mean, it's understandable. He will take a while to develop.
Yeah.
But I would like, say, an OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, perhaps. Who knows? Brooklyn is not great. He should be available.
Yeah.
I mean, just, yeah, that's where I'm saying. and I don't want the same thing that happened, with Paul George, where he said like we had a deal to bring Anthony Davis here to Indiana to play with BG, and the front office didn't take it, and he ended up leaving because he was like, okay, they're not serious about winning an NBA championship in here. I'm gonna leave, and I don't want that same mistake, being made twice
Yeah.
when you get another young superstar, an electric player that, I mean, it is clear that other superstars are taking note of it and saying, hey, I would like to go play with Tyrese, because imagine you're a shooting guard, a power forward. Who wouldn't want to play with a point guard that can, he can see the entire floor, he can find you anywhere on the floor any single time, and he's not a problematic person. He's not a guy that will take 30 shots a game and hog the ball and not pass it. I mean, you're gonna get the ball even more. You're gonna get great looks because that's the type of player that Tyrese is. Who wouldn't want to play with him?
Yeah. And I think the Pacers thought that the running mate was Buddy Hield, right? I can obviously see a world where the Pacers thought they were getting sort of a 2-for-1 deal, right? You take Domantas Sabonis, we'll take Halliburton and Hield, who are best friends, and they'll take over the division for us. But I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm adding to this roster because I think it has playoff capability. You have a ton of young players. You'd love to get them all experience because once you taste it, then there's nothing like it, and you have to have it. And it's like you want as many of these people that you employ right now to taste playoff basketball, so they get some reward for their hard work. They get some experience under their belt, and they get some motivation, right? Because it's kind of like we've said, like they go through stretches where you're like they could beat anybody, and then they show you that at any point they could just fall apart.
Yeah,
They've shown defensive liability. And I come from the old school. My dad coached and refed basketball growing up. His thought process was if you don't play great defense, you don't play. And the talent level is so high in the NBA that it's kind of silly to kind of think that way. It's clear that defense is not a priority. Um, and I say that because both teams shot over 47% from 3-point land, and there's no way we're getting a hand up every shot if we're shooting almost 50% from 3-point land.
yeah,
It's not happening. Guys don't shoot that high a percentage. So it's stuff like that that makes me think maybe you're right. Maybe you got to add to this talent pool in a big way. And like you said, you don't want to get caught in a situation where Halliburton realizes that none of these other people on this team are on my level. And I need a running mate. I need somebody that can basically put it down every night, right? And I just don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I jokingly say Matherin, right? But I don't know that
yeah,
guy's on the roster. I think Turner's not offensively skilled enough. He's skilled, but he's not a focal point of the offense. I mean, or he is in Halliburton's absence. But yeah, otherwise he's not taking on the load. He's like
yeah,
he's in a timeshare. Um, but the Pacers are more like a team anyway to have like 5 or 6 guys in double figures than they are to have a couple leading scorers. It's just not in their nature. So obviously I'd be interested to see if they do make any moves. They do want to disrupt this sort of nucleus they've got. Because like I
yeah,
said, I feel like we're right at about halfway-ish through the season. We're at 36 games, 82 game season, like 5 games from halfway through the season. Um, and I think it kind of insults all that work that you've done to think that you need to add to this when you could probably get to
yeah,
the playoffs on this talent level. It's going to be interesting to what they do the next couple weeks without Halliburton and how are guys able to realize that at a drop of a hat your role could change
yeah,
and your minutes are a lot more impactful minutes now instead of getting some garbage time. So obviously the Pacers are sort of in flux right? Because they've been good and recently 7-1 in their last 8 games, right? Um, but now you have your all-star starting point guard out for a couple weeks, and you're gonna have, you got to play the Wizards, right? A game that
Yeah, you
normally you'd
should.
just
Yeah, you
expect
should be
the
able to.
Pacers to win, but like now it's like you've got to beat the Wizards without Halliburton, right? Like that's a pretty low bar in terms of what the league has to offer. So I think obviously I think that they're in a position to win. But man, there for a moment, in terms of these Colts and Pacers, we were right there, right? Both the Colts and the Pacers making the playoffs. We
Yeah.
almost had it.
In
Um,
next, yeah, we're always talking about next year, but it just feel like it's bound to happen, in the at least in the short term. Like Tyrese is just too good to miss a playoff, especially if Mathurin keeps developing.
yeah,
So you're gonna make the playoff. I mean, at least you're gonna make it as the 6th, 7th seed. You're gonna make it. Now the Colts, if Anthony Richardson is as good as he showed, the flashes he showed this rookie season,
mhm,
I don't think we're missing the playoff in the next 10 to 15 years. Unless, injury strikes, of course, it can
right,
happen. It's the NFL. But
yeah.
if he's healthy, if he plays more than 14 games, I don't see a way you miss the playoffs. Like I don't think it's possible.
Exciting times right now. The Colts are locked into the 15th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. That obviously, like I said, I went into this season thinking you win like 6 games, you see enough out of Richardson that you made the right decision. It's a good year. And instead, they won 9 games and were in the game. Like the game was close all the way to the end, and it took like a fourth down and one. You know what I mean? Like you were on the cusp of making the playoffs, year one of Shane Steichen's career, and he lost this quarterback and was playing a backup,
Yeah.
right? So obviously they overachieved. It's far more likely they regress than that they gain. If they gain, they're only likely to gain like 4, which puts them Baltimore territory, right? And I think Baltimore, San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I'm just taking chalk. Those are the chalk 1 seeds. But both those teams are able to do what they need to do to win games.
Yeah.
And so wouldn't want to be in their way. But like you said, Anthony Richardson in this offense starts popping. You get some guys back, infuse some talent on defense specifically, and I'm with you. You could really beat anybody,
Yeah.
because it's an offensive league, and when you've got one of the best offensive lines, one of the best running backs, in the NFL, it's a recipe for just having a nice afternoon, nice Sunday. So I think it's a good place to set her down. Like I
Yeah.
said, we try to get together every week during the NFL season to record a podcast. I think every other week is a good goal
Yeah.
to have outside of the NFL regular season or when the Colts are playing football, right? So
Yeah.
if Colts make the
Yeah.
playoffs, we try to hit another podcast next week. They didn't. Uh, we'll keep it to every couple weeks,
Yeah.
and we'll pick it back up and make it a weekly podcast at the beginning of
Next
next season.
season. Yeah.
Yeah. So we appreciate any of the support that we've gotten. Obviously, thank you, Mateo, for sitting
Yeah.
down
I
with me
mean,
for
it's
a couple years now. We've
yeah,
we've
it's been like time flight. Like I I remember, the first episode, like it was, I mean, sometimes I think like, nah, yeah, I just started it, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and then I'm like, damn, it's been 2 years now. It hits you and you're like, damn, it's been a lot. And to me, it's honestly, it's one of the best times of the week for me. I rarely get the chance to talk about, here in Argentina, there are not many Colts and Pacers fans.
right,
So I don't have anyone to talk about it, like it's not that
right.
common for me. So, having the chance to sit down and talk with you for an hour and a half, to me, it's not only an honor, but it's something that I, really enjoy and look forward to. I mean, I have a great time. I feel amazing talking to you, and every time, we shut down, I leave with a smile saying, hey, I really enjoy doing that. And I think, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm so thankful to have you as my co-host. I didn't know it was going to happen when Stephen Reed was like, "Hey man, I've got an opportunity I want to chase. I can get some sponsors and do my own thing." Now, I don't know how that panned out for him, but I was like, "Man, what am I supposed to do?" Because this guy's got left in the and just to have added you and have gone through a couple seasons with you of meeting and recording this podcast. Like I said, I'm really appreciative. I'm glad that you're here. I'm awful. I think I'm awfully happy about what we're doing, right? We're not just sitting here throwing a pity party because the Colts lost, and that's the end of the show, right? It's like
Nah,
no,
yeah.
we're also going to talk about the Indiana Pacers because this is an up and coming professional sports franchise who I don't feel like get talked about enough. And obviously, like I said, you win 7 of 8 games and play some big dogs like the Pacers have, and win.
Yeah.
Really what I was looking at was the 2 games against the Bucks and the 2 games against the
2 games
Celtics,
against the
and they
Celtics. Yeah.
won 3 of 4. One of those wins against the Celtics, who by the way is like the #1 team in the East, they beat them without Halliburton for most of that game. So those that context matters to me. It affects my fanhood, right? And again, I'm in the same kind of boat you are, where not everyone I know still follows the Colts, cares about the Pacers, and I live in Indianapolis, right? So I'm awful honored to have somebody that's got the same level of passion for the Colts and Pacers that I do. That's willing to put
Yeah.
put in the time, and I think that we put out an interesting product, right? Like I said, like I've never seen another podcast that covers two different professional sports in the same city, right? And one of the co-hosts lives in another country.
Yeah.
It's That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like of all the podcasts you could watch. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been nice. And like I said, we'll keep it moving. We'll record a
Yeah,
podcast in a
we
couple
always,
weeks. We'll get
yeah.
back. We'll get back with any Colts news that comes up.
Yeah,
Um,
you won't be missing any content. Like we'll still be here.
yeah, absolutely. So hey, have a great rest of your week. Enjoy playoff football. And we'll see you on
Yeah,
down the
we'll see
road.
in a couple of weeks.